Hi, my name is Callie Furstenberg, and this is my cultural comparison interview for Education 2050 Human Relations and Multicultural Education with Cynthia Bunting. So, this is my interviewee. Her name is Clémence Laurent, and she is from France. Clémence was my foreign exchange student for a few years while I was in high school. She was in America for a total of 3 years, but then went back to France last year to live with her family and to attend college. So this is a photo of us. This is me. This is Clémence. And then her best friend came to visit us also. So that's her. So the first is attitude towards age. And the American view kind of emphasizes physical beauty and youth. They fire older people to hire younger people for less money, and they judge a worker's worth based on production, not seniority. So this is what Clémence's view was on attitude towards age. She said, the older you get, the more mistreated and sidelined you are. Clémence described the elderly being put into nursing homes against their will because their families don't have room in their homes to house them, or they simply don't want to deal with them. The younger people are viewed with more beauty and respect because they are more tech savvy and harder workers. She said, in my country, people are expected to do good in school and become successful. So the next is the concept of fate and destiny. So the American view is you can be whatever you want to be, and where there's a will, there's a way. And Clémence's viewpoint was, in France, typically you have the pressures of your parents to become something greater. In my family, my parents and older siblings are doctors, so that puts a lot of pressure on me to become the same. Though we do not have the freedom to become whatever we want to be, it is not much different than America. I believe in love at first sight, so fate is in God's hands. She said a lot of them are Catholic, a lot of French people are Catholic, and so it's her family and them. So they believe that fate is in God's hands. So the next is view of human nature. And the American view, the courts consider a person to be innocent until they are proven guilty. People should be given the benefit of the doubt. If left alone, someone will do the right thing. We need to discover how a vicious killer went wrong. So Clémence's point of view was we believe in having morals and values, and a majority of family morals are based on what we learn in the Catholic Church. We have the same innocent until proven guilty in France, and we use civil law instead of common law like in the United States. She said, I believe everyone is good until not to be, and I will always give someone the benefit of the doubt. I am very cautious around people because where I live in France, there's a lot of crime, she said. So she believes everybody's good, but if she's like walking around in the street and there's some creepy guy, she's obviously going to be a little scared because of in France, it is a high crime area where she lives. So, what are the attitudes towards change? In America, we believe that new is better. A better way can always be found, things can always be improved upon, and just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean it is right. So, Clémence's view was change, I think, is good, though our parents and elderly do not like change. Many French people do not like change, but then protest when they do not have something or like something and want change. It's very ironic, she says. Like right now, there are many protesting and mandatory vaccine mandates. All that COVID stuff is intense here, lockdown, everything. So she's saying that even though they don't like change, they're trying to protest for change against like the vaccine mandates and stuff like that and the lockdowns. But many French people do like the advances of medicine and healthcare change. So they believe in a better healthcare system and improving their medicine, improving the vaccines, stuff like that. She said, my parents do not like change, especially with technology. That's pretty similar to here in the US. The older generations do not like the change because I think it's hard for them to get used to the change and to figure out how to use new technology. But Clement says, I love change. It means we are moving forward, which I totally agree with. So, number 5 is attitude towards taking risks. So, in America, a low level of personal savings is typical. You can always start over. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. A high level of personal bankruptcies is common. So Clemence's view is many people are afraid of taking risks here, yet they all smoke cigarettes. Kind of a joke, because smoking cigarettes is definitely a risk to your health. They believe taking risks is a huge risk in itself and can cause someone to ruin their reputation or become broke. My parents think taking risks is a huge danger and suggest against it and to stay on the safe side of things. Many French people agree with my parents and think failure can ruin someone's reputation, though many younger generations are taking more risks. But I think that also goes along with being immature, she says, which I totally agree with. In the US, taking risks is a big thing. People are always, saying you only live once or live on the wild side. But I feel like a lot of other cultures, such as France, they do not believe that. And I totally understand why, because taking risks has a huge risk in itself, as she said. You can go broke, which is why in America we have high level of personal bankruptcies. So the next is concept of suffering and misfortune. So people rush in America to cheer up a friend who's depressed. If you're unhappy, take a pill or see a psychiatrist and just be happy in general. I disagree with a lot of those things. If you're unhappy, take a pill. I just feel like there's so many other ways to become happy besides forcing medicine into your body. So in France, Clement says, if someone is depressed, the doctors believe in therapy and medication. Many people are ashamed of having mental issues. I feel like that relates to here in the US. So many will not seek medical help or tell anyone they are unhappy or are depressed. Many people, I believe, smoke cigarettes because they are unhappy and need an escape. We believe if someone has misfortune, they just get back up and continue on. Though we also believe in God, so we pray for each other and our family, which is really cool, and I totally agree with. So number 7 is concept of face. It is important to tell it like it is and be straight with people in the United States. Confrontation is sometimes necessary to clear the air. Honesty is the best policy. Though I feel like another one that can be added to this list for the United States is passive aggressiveness. I feel like a lot of people in Minnesota, especially, this pertains to, are passive aggressive, including myself, and don't like confrontation unless it's necessary. So Clement says, in France we believe to be honest to everyone, no matter how much it may hurt them. Sometimes people think that French people are rude, but no, we are just trying to be honest. We confront people when we have issues with them. This is because we don't like to be passive aggressive. We like to be straightforward and to the point. So number 8 is source of self-esteem / worth. So the American point of view is people judge you by how much money you make. The first question at a party is, what do you do? And material possessions are a measure of success, which is totally true in America. Like, I feel like people flaunt what they have, or if they have a nice car or a nice house, because that's how you get higher in America's society, is by having money and material possessions. So Clemence's point of view from being from France, she says, French people have high self-esteem and often take care of themselves. If you're born into a family with high wealth, you will most likely have wealth your whole life, being born into it. Money has always been a taboo subject in France. They don't really talk about it that often or like to flaunt their money. She said, when I was a child, I had no idea whether we were rich or poor because my parents never talked about it. No one else ever talked about it. The French are also very cautious about showing signs of wealth. It is not thought of as good manners. Money can attract envy, jealousy, and criminals, which is totally true. I feel like here, criminal activity is high, but it's not as high as where she lives in France. So this totally makes sense with what she said before about living in a crime-filled city. That would make sense not wanting to flaunt their money or show signs of wealth because, yeah, they probably would get robbed and broken into. So 9, the concept of equality. So in America, people try to treat everyone the same. While jogging, the president stops at McDonald's for a morning coffee. Putting on airs is frowned upon. So in France, the point of view, gender equality has been a work in progress. Many women are still making less than men in workplaces. I feel like this is sort of the same as in the US. I feel like it's gotten a whole lot better. But like I know like the women NBA players get paid way less than the men's. So I feel like we still have inequality in some places. She said there have been many protests and other events that people have noticed their opinions on the subject. They've voiced their opinions on the subject. Last year, gender equality was a huge priority for France and the government, but we do believe that everyone should be treated with equality and respect and should have the same opportunities as each other. She also said that LGBTQ rights have made huge progress the past few years as well, which I also feel is similar to the United States. So number 10 is attitude towards formality. Telling someone to help themselves to what's in the refrigerator is common, so not very formal, I would say, in the US. We are not formal. We're not a very formal society, I feel like. Using first names with people you've just met is fine. Yeah, so not very formal in the US. We just typically say hi or a handshake. She said in France, we have different ways of greeting people. Some are more formal than others. When we meet a stranger, we shake their hand, kind of similar to the US. When we meet friends or family, we do kiss on the cheek. We do not do that here. And it's rude not to, she says. In very formal situations, men will typically kiss the woman on the hand, which is very formal, and men will greet each other with shaking hands. Formality is highly regarded in France. She said, we address our superiors and those you meet for the first time using, I cannot say these, monsieur and madame. She said it is also considered rude to tip a waiter or waitress at a restaurant in France. So here, to tip somebody good money, it's a compliment. They really appreciate that. But there, she explained more into detail that to tip somebody means that they need to work on something, that they need to work on better food or their communication skills, stuff like that. So number 11 is degree of realism. So the American view is things will get better, bad things happen for a reason. It can't get any worse. Tagline of fairy tales, they lived happily ever after. Very true. So Clemence's view from France is that everyone is rather harsh when it comes to failure because it can ruin your reputation, she said earlier, and people are very real about it. When you fail at something, it is probably shamed upon and not as lenient as I've seen in the US. But people will help you get back up. Many think when something bad has happened or you fail, your reputation is ruined. This is why French standards are so high. Though standards are high for students, we do like to live our life one day at a time. So, number 12 is attitude towards doing. The American view is doing is preferred over talking. An abstinated professor, the ivory towers reflect anti intellectualism. Be practical. Arts are an adornment of life, but do not central to it. So in France, it is a very productive country. She said most people think and work very hard, but we also do like to take time for ourselves. We value being social and having family and friends. Though France is known for their art and romance, being an artist isn't a valued job. Good jobs here include doctors, lawyers, and computer science, though we do take pride in our artistry. French people love food. We think our food is extraordinary. Chefs are treated almost like nobility, and they are respected the way a famous painter would be. Being a chef in a big restaurant pays really well. They do take pride in their art, and they do take pride in their food. Being an artist, unless you're like a famous artist, there isn't like a high priority job like a lawyer, but they do get paid more and are more respected in France than they are here, I would say. So, number 13, view of the natural world. So, building dams to control rivers, seeding clouds to produce rain, erecting earthquake proof buildings, and spending billions annually on weather prediction. So, Clement says today, climate change is the most focused upon issue, though many people don't seem to have much knowledge on the topic and don't care. But I know the government has put some new orders in place to help decrease global warming. It is often rainy in France, and we experience a lot of storms and cool winters. We do have good weather radars and other tools to protect us, but we don't have severe weather very often. We do get earthquakes sometimes, so some of our buildings do have earthquake proofing. So this is my reflection of the whole experience. I said, overall, this experience was very exciting to me. I haven't seen Clemence in 2 years, so talking to her again and building a deeper connection with her was great. I thought it was interesting to learn some of these deeper concepts and beliefs in her culture. Some things we had a totally opposite mindset on, but that's okay. One comparison I made between our cultures was as Americans, we like to flaunt our money and take pride in what we own materially. In France, they do not want to compare their belongings or talk about money. It is considered taboo. Another comparison I made between American views and France viewpoints is the way they greet one another. In France, it is custom to meet your family and friends with a kiss on the cheek, whereas in America, we prefer a hug or a handshake or even a simple hello. The last comparison I made between American culture and French culture is in France, the people were very straightforward, and if they had an issue with someone else, they confronted them. However, in America, we tend to be passive aggressive and avoid the confrontation. Though there were a few differences between our culture, there are also some similarities. One similarity our cultures had in common was more than half of the people who lived in France are Catholic. This is close to the US being at 60% of its citizens are Catholic. Another connection I made between our cultures was they also believe a person is innocent until proven guilty, just as the US does. The last similarity I made between the US and French culture is that they medically have some of the same practices. Typically in America, our doctors prescribe medicine for everything. In France, it is very similar. They believe in medication and therapy. This interview helped put perspective and openness in my mind and heart. Often, as educators, we get caught up in doing things a certain way when there might be students in our classrooms who may have a different culture and background than us. And we need to be mindful of this. This interview changed the way I will be teaching in my future classroom and reminded me that I need to find ways to incorporate different cultures and backgrounds into my lesson activities. Thank you so much for listening to my cultural presentation interview.